Israeli forces have been dropping leaflets on Gaza saying they'll go door to door searching for Hamas militants. They're warning Palestinians to stay away from Hamas areas which are to be targeted. Saeed Suerki from RT's Arabic sister channel, Rasia Al-Yam, is one of the few journalists inside Gaza.
The only change observed in Gaza is an increase in the number of victims. According to the Ministry of Health and information arriving from hospitals, the death toll has reached 854 people. 54 of them died today. Dozens of the dead remain in the streets or lie in derelict houses. On the streets there's a putrid smell. On Saturday, the Israeli Air Force bombarded dozens of units and installations. We've been to some of the hospitals and seen children who remain safe after the shelling. Among the rescued were 4 children who had spent 4 days next to their dead mother. The eldest boy was 13. He managed to bandage himself and his brothers, and for 3 days he found food for them. Electricity has finally been restored for the first time in over a week. People are beginning to ask if this is a sign the shooting will come to an end. Some witnesses even say the Israeli military enters a civilian area, ushers all the residents into a single house, then targets the house. They say the situation is terrible.
Well, over 800 Palestinians have now been killed in Gaza, around half of which are Hamas fighters. 3 Israeli civilians and 10 soldiers have died. With both sides ignoring UN ceasefire demands, Egypt is hosting frantic peace talks. The Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas has warned of a waterfall of blood unless a ceasefire is put into effect. 3 Palestinians were killed and dozens more injured in an Israeli strike. At the same time, the Human Rights Watch pressure group is accusing Israel of using banned white phosphorus shells indiscriminately in built-up areas, causing civilians to be badly burnt. RT's Paul Islier has been in the conflict zone and has this roundup of the week's conflict.
Into its 3rd week, and the fighting in Gaza shows no signs of letting up. Both sides have ignored a United Nations Security Council call for an immediate ceasefire. Israel says for as long as rockets continue to be fired across the border, the resolution is unworkable. Hamas says it wasn't consulted and insists Israel first end its economic blockade of Gaza. Egypt's now taken center stage to see if it can broker a peace deal.
We're calling for an international force to protect Palestinian people, and this call is not new. We have been calling for it for the last 30 years, and we're still calling for international force to protect Palestinians.
But things are expected to get worse before they get better. Israeli soldiers are on standby for the next phase of their operation, to enter the most densely populated areas of Gaza. A fresh wave of Israeli airstrikes on Saturday targeted weapons storage facilities and smuggling tunnels. Aid agencies say Gaza's 1.5 million people are in urgent need of food and medical aid.
The humanitarian situation needs us all as an international community to work together in order to achieve the condition for permanent ceasefire. And we hope to do that.
More than 30 rockets were fired by Hamas into Israel on Saturday. The situation in Gaza is like a pressure cooker waiting to explode. As the humanitarian situation deteriorates, more and more people are desperate to leave. The problem is that they have nowhere to go, and both Israel and Egypt have closed their border with Gaza. In this very chaotic situation, it seems bizarre that there are some people who want to return to Gaza now. This is the 3rd time that Avi Farhan has had to pack his house in Israel and move north. The first time was during the 70s, when Israel returned Sinai to Egypt, and Ariel Sharon, who was then Minister of Defense, moved Avi and his friends to Gaza. But 3.5 years ago, when Ariel Sharon was Prime Minister, he returned Gaza to the Palestinians and forced Avi and his friends to move again. Today, he's moving only a few meters, but it's north again, from one room to another, in a hotel where he's been temporarily living since he left Gaza. After his experience, Avi's no longer taking any politicians seriously.
Say him is mistake to do it. I say him, I say him, the Palestinian take this area and shoot to the Ashkelon in my home, and I show him in my veranda. We won't go home. We won't come back to LA Sinai to get in Nisanit.
I'm suspicious of my government. After what happened to us, after we built our houses, our community, our positions in the society, after we fulfilled our dreams, they pulled us out of there. So I do not believe that if I go back and rebuild everything from the beginning, they will not do the same thing again after a few years. I've lost my meaning in life.
Russia's special envoy for the Middle East, Alexander Sultanov, is in the region trying to get the warring sides to speak to each other. But Israel refuses to speak with Hamas, preparing instead for a third week of violence. Paula Sleer, RT, on the Israel Gaza.